Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:07 this Tuesday morning, 27th day of May, finishing up the month of May this week as we launch you into June and the summer and to school. Are you kids out of school yet, Julie Gunlock?
No, they're not. But boy, they're excited.
I bet they are.
And I'm excited too for them to be in the house all day. It's great.
Oh, come on. You love them in the house all day.
No.
I'm about to have a high school graduation. This
so
Friday,
exciting.
My youngest little guy, EJ, is graduating high school. And I am excited about having him in the house all summer.
Oh, aren't you the superior parent?
Yes. Well, I just have superior children.
Okay. All right.
Coming up at 7:05, Coley Stimson of Heritage Foundation. 7:35, Ed Martin will join us. A lively interview last week. Can't wait to get to more with Ed. And then at 8:05, Phil Wegman. Latest on the White House. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. I'm kidding. Our children are great. Here's the thing. It's a grass is always greener situation. My children.
I'm about to go Brigitte Macron on you. Okay.
Wait. Be specific.
Wait. Hold on.
My children, of course, spend the bulk of their time with their mother on the West Coast as we are divorced, and I get them. They get to come and live with me. They could live with me all the time, but it just makes sense, especially for EJ, who is a special needs child on the autism spectrum and has been homeschooled. We maintained his residence for the most part in Southern California with his mother, but he is now graduated, so he is going to be coming out and spending the entire summer with us, and maybe even longer now that he's a young adult.
You know, weirdly, California has much better homeschooling rules than
it is.
It's bizarre.
It's funny. I was just talking to my ex-wife about this yesterday as we were sort of formulating the schedule for the summer and then beyond and what EJ is going to be doing with me in terms of sort of feeling out his next steps. He has no interest right now in higher education, but there are a lot of interests that he have that we can pursue. And actually, we're going to be talking about a new emphasis on trade schools that President Trump announced yesterday, too, that we're going to discuss that in further detail a little later in the program. But we were reflecting. I said, listen, I want to congratulate you for being able to homeschool EJ through high school, because all of our other kids were homeschooled up through like 7th, 8th grade.
Right.
But because of EJ's special needs, and of course he hit high school right when the pandemic hit, and there was just no way that a child on the autism spectrum was going to be able to maneuver through this without being homeschooled. The public school system in Los Angeles County was not going to work. And so I was congratulating around that, and I was reflecting on the fact that Maryland actually has more restrictions on homeschooling than California.
Yeah.
They're trying, though. She alerted me there's a bill in the legislature going to the Assembly of California where they're trying to make it so that any tutor that you use, like a piano teacher, like if you as a homeschooler, if you want to like do extracurriculars and utilize various specialized tutors, all of them need to be certified teachers through the teachers union.
Of course.
It's such a
okay. I could just feel my blood pressure. I had not heard that. That is just ridiculous. The certification.
We'll get Independent Women's Forum on the case on that one. Anyway, so yes, we have our graduation coming up this weekend. Very excited about that, and yes, we're very excited to have EJ in the house with us and doing all the fun stuff. And maybe I'll bring him on the air one day.
It'd be great.
As a nonverbal autistic adult now, it's always exciting to have somebody who literally doesn't speak on the radio. It'd be great. I'll tell you who is doing a lot of speaking. It's Jake Tapper and his co-author, Alex Thompson, who are raking in the bucks on their book, which basically reveals not a whole – I mean, there are revelations in here, but if you shoot it through the prism of, okay – because we kept saying, how are people in the Biden White House going to salvage their careers and ever work again in politics? And the answer is – you give all this information to Tapper and Thompson. You shield your identity. No one's name is named. All of the sources are protected with anonymity, as usual. And then write the whole thing off to, there were a few unnamed people who called all the shots, but it's not our fault.
Tapper isn't mob boss. He is reputationally laundering all of these journalists and all of these Biden administration people who want to save their reputations, who want it out there, maybe not their names, but they wanted to be a source. And then Tapper takes that message and says, people didn't know, or let's focus on Trump now, let's move on.
Yes. That's the new narrative now, is that, because we speculated last week. Listen, Tapper is now ticking off all of his Trump-hating, Biden-loving audience who would tune into his show. So who's going to be left to watch it? And now we have the answer. This book about how Joe Biden was incapable of being president and how he hid it, he lied about it, the White House hid it, they lied about it, and how the media participated in hiding it and lied about it. It's really all about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is really the enemy. He's the bad guy in this book. Here's Alex Thompson on MSNBC feeding that audience exactly what they want to hear.
If you take the lessons learned from the book, both about where the country is on having elder presidents and, more importantly, where the media is there a double standard in which, in a way, the way the media covered Joe Biden's health versus Donald Trump's health during the campaign? And certainly now, is there a double standard with the way we are covering it? I mean, are you out there also investigating and reporting about Trump's health in the same rigor that you did this book?
I'm so glad you asked this question, because while we didn't know that much about Joe Biden's health, we know even less about Donald Trump's health. He was completely untransparent during the 2023-2024 campaign. He has not been transparent since, and there is no mechanism forcing him or any future president to being transparent about their health. He could be on anything. We really have no idea. So I think it's like a really vital question. I will say that, in 2023, I wrote an entire piece about how Donald Trump had not been transparent about any of his health. The last month or two, I admittedly have been busy with this book, so I have not returned to the subject. But I think it's completely fair. Donald Trump was older on his inauguration day than Joe Biden was on his. Donald Trump's health is completely fair game, and there should be an incredibly investigative reporting onto how it's affecting his job as president.
There it is.
It's
there it
just
is. That's
unbelievable.
The real story. Yeah.
The other narrative that they're really pursuing, Larry, not just Trump, is that the press was the victim along with the American public. That is the narrative out here. We didn't know. The White House lied. It's all about saving the reputation of the media. And what Alex doesn't realize is nobody trusts them anymore. And this sort of narrative that they've concocted is just hammering home to the American public that they can't be trusted. Jake Tapper making money off this, it's maddening.
Well, we actually have more, believe it or not. Tapper doubles down on this. We'll play it for you in a moment. The real question here is to focus on Donald Trump. And they kept saying his age. He's just as old. I want to repeat this because we said it all through the Biden presidency. This has nothing to do with his age.
Right.
We know people who are older than Joe Biden who are more cognitively with it. Look at Brigitte Macron, for God's sake. This has nothing to do with people. Was she not that old? Boy, she looks old. She's got that crypt keeper thing going on.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, if I say that in her presence, I'm going to get a fist to the face, so I should watch myself. This isn't about Trump's age. It's not about Biden's age. It's about his cognitive abilities and the obvious displays in front of us every day that there was something wrong with Joe Biden. And, of course, there's nothing like that, no indications like that about Donald Trump. But Tapper goes there again. They continue to go there. He's feeding the beast what they want, which is get Trump, which is how we got in this in the first place, by the way. The whole reason why they ignored what was right in front of them was because they had to stop Trump. And they all decided keeping Biden propped up was the only way to stop Trump. It's 6:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
How has writing this important book, investigating the Biden presidency, Jake, informed you about how to cover the current president?
Well, I just think in general, not Trump specific, but in general, I think that the press corps, and I'm certainly including myself, needs to worry less about politeness when it comes to these health issues, and needs to be even more aggressive when it comes to demanding transparency on health issues when it comes to the president. President Trump, while he appears healthy, he has not been transparent about his health records. And I think that that's something that the American people have a right to.
You know, the president underwent his physical exam at Walter Reed on April 13th. Or, excuse me, the exam was on the 11th. 2 days later, the White House released all the results of that physical exam. Much more forthcoming than the Biden administration. But the Biden administration, you know, good luck trying to find any sort of test results over prostate exams on Joe Biden, who we now know has an advanced form of prostate cancer.
Notice also Tapper doesn't talk about the fact that his doctors at the time obviously were not reporting things. There was not the release of information from Biden. He doesn't seem to be in any way concerned that these people, and doesn't seem to want there to be any accountability for the fact that these people lied.
And again, the idea that Trump is just as bad as Biden, first of all, on its face, is false. But number two, they keep ignoring the fact that this wasn't just about them towing the party line and buying the lies that they were told by the Biden White House. Jake Tapper went on the offensive. He became a weapon against any journalist who differed with the party line. You know, I never took a journalism class, but I got to think literally Journalism 101, especially if you're a political journalist. Journalism 101 has to have at least a chapter in the book about not believing lies politicians tell you and challenging everything that a politician says, especially a president, especially when the lie they're telling you betrays what you can see with your very own eyes. And when so many of us were pointing out what we saw Joe Biden doing, Jake Tapper decided that he was going to be the weapon to push back against us and defeat our narrative. Again, utilizing his position today now to draw the focus on Donald Trump and his supposed health problems, which are non-existent, rather than actually facing the reality of what Biden did and what they participated in.
And by quickly moving on, I mean, there's going to be, it will happen again. It will happen again. Tapper seems to ignore the fact that the only people that can really keep these politicians in check is a curious media willing to ask the tough questions. He's just moved on.
They're more than willing to ask those questions now because
of course.
Donald Trump is in the White House. And that's, again, the original sin in all of this is that they would do and say anything to defeat Donald Trump. And the amazing thing is it still didn't work.
Yes.
In fact, it backfired on them, and Trump won going away. But they have no shame. They are shameless liars, which, by the way, happens to be the name of my book. If you want a book about the lies the media told in the 2024 presidential election, I appreciate your interest in a book like that. Just don't buy Jake Tapper's, because not only does he not actually go into who's responsible for those lies, but he doesn't name any names. I name everybody's name in my book, and it also happens to be called Shameless Liars, How Trump Defeated the Legacy Media and Made Them Irrelevant. Go ahead and check it out. It's actually had a resurgence in sales 3 months after its release, thanks to Jake Tapper. I feel great humility about Jake Tapper's coverage of the Biden presidency. It's 6:22.
Well, President Trump wasn't holding back yesterday. No nice, boring message on Memorial Day. Nope, Trump issued a fiery statement calling the Biden administration scum and saying he's fixing the country after a long and hard 4 years. Where's the lie? We'll tell you all about it at 6:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
6:37 as this morning just flies by. It's O'Connor and Company on this Tuesday after Memorial Day. I hope you had a great weekend. Coming up at 7:05, Cully Stimson will join us from the Heritage Foundation to talk about whether the death penalty should be sought in the assassination of those 2 Israeli embassy staff members. It's 7:35. Ed Martin, now in the Justice Department doing the Lord's work. We'll get an update from him. And at 8:05, Phil Wegman doing the Lord's work there for Real Clear Politics, covering the White House. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock doing the Lord's work, keeping me company every morning.
Good morning.
We're all doing the Lord's work. We mentioned part of this yesterday. President Biden put out his typical holiday tweet. Everyone says, oh, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with him for doing this? Where he says, Happy Memorial Day to all, including the scum that spent the last 4 years trying to destroy our country. So it's like this is a thing. He's been doing this for years now, even before he was president, I think.
Yeah, this is nothing new.
It's like, what's wrong with him? Let me tell you something. If President Trump did not put out a holiday tweet like this, that's when I would wonder what's wrong with him. That's when you know there's something wrong. This tells it's all capital letters. You know, you skim down it. You know, it's supposed to be for Memorial Day, but then he starts talking about judges who are on a mission to keep murderers, drug dealers, rapists, gang members, and release prisoners from all over the world in our country so they can rob, murder, and rape again. It's like, I thought this was about Memorial Day. You continue. Fear not. At the end, fear not. We've made great progress over the last 4 months, and America will soon be safe and great again. Again, happy Memorial Day, and God bless America. And then President Trump headed over to Arlington National Cemetery. He was flanked by Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. And he stayed pretty much on script here, I have to say, because I do think the president recognizes that at times like this is the job to sort of focus America's attention on our common humanity, and that is on Memorial Day, where we all acknowledge those who served and gave everything, the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms and for our nation. But he also took time to point out that in many ways the weight and responsibility of the role of commander-in-chief in putting men and women who wear the uniform in harm's way, it's been exploited and it's been abused by some of his predecessors. Yeah. And some say that this was inappropriate. I think that this needs to be said about what's happened in the past, and the president said it yesterday. Let's listen to Cut 5.
Those young men could never have known what their sacrifice would mean to us, but we certainly know what we owe to them. Their valor gave us the freest, greatest, and most noble republic ever to exist on the face of the earth, a republic that I am fixing after a long and hard 4 years. That was a hard 4 years we went through. Who would let that happen? People pouring through our borders unchecked. People doing things that are indescribable and not for today to discuss. But the republic that is now doing so very well, we're doing so very well right now, considering the circumstances, and will do record-setting better with time. We will do better than we've ever done as a nation, better than ever before. I promise you that.
That was part of his Memorial Day speech yesterday, where he did, in fact, go off script quite a bit in slamming his predecessor. And listen, I appreciate the president's ability to take a moment and make it resonate with the people who are in front of him. But at the same time, one wonders if that is necessarily the best way to utilize his role as commander-in-chief on a day that should be free of politics.
Yeah, I see that argument, and I think that if this were done on the left, if we saw Biden getting up there, Kamala getting up there, or, you name it, any liberal politician, Liz Cheney, right? Adam Kinzinger, we would criticize that.
We'd be angry.
We'd be angry. But I will tell you, I think this is a unique time. We are only how many days into it's early days. And I appreciate the acknowledgement. He didn't go off. He just said these were tough years. And I appreciate the acknowledgement of, don't forget, we are not so far away from COVID. We were, the parents being investigated, the schools remaining closed, the masks remaining on. And I am still reeling from that.
I get that.
And so, I'm just saying I do, because so few people acknowledge what we went through.
Right. I get that, and I appreciate it.
I see it.
The only reason I pause and reflect is that he was standing at Arlington National Cemetery on Memorial Day.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of time and moment to talk. I put myself, like you said, in the position where if it's someone I disagree with doing that, or I put myself in the position of someone who is there honoring the death of their spouse or their parent or their child.
I see. Yes.
Here's a little bit more, cut 6.
For the families of the fallen, you feel the absence of your heroes every day in the family. These are great families. These are wonderful families. In the familiar laugh no longer heard, the empty space at Sunday dinner, or the want of a hug or a pat on the back that will never come again. Every Gold Star family fights a battle long after the victory is won, and today we lift you up and we hold you high. Thank you, thank you, thank you for giving America the brightest light in your lives.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. That's Memorial Day, and he's very good at doing that. I think that on days like this, he should stick to it. That said, coming up, we'll talk about what one person who will never, ever be president did for her Memorial Day. That would be Hillary Clinton, and it's a perfect example of what we're talking about. It's 6:43.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
For those of you who are concerned that I expressed regret over President Trump's statements at Memorial Day observations at Arlington that ventured off script and went rather political, let's now reflect on what Hillary Clinton has said over this Memorial Day. This is just sad and pathetic. As she put out a post on Friday that said, "I'm giving you a mission for this Memorial Day holiday weekend." That's what I want, a mission from Hillary Clinton. And she uses a term like mission, which is interesting, has two different kind of connotations. It's actually could be a religious mission, right? That you must go and evangelize your religious faith on mission, or it's a military quest, right? We're on a military mission. So what was her mission for all of us over Memorial Day weekend? Hillary Clinton says, "I want you to talk to two people, friends, neighbors, cookout attendees, about why Trump's proposed budget would be a disaster for American kids. We owe the next generation any chance, and this isn't it." And then it has a fact sheet, which is full of lies about what the Trump budget and reconciliation package would do. But this is sad and pathetic and infuriating. And if anybody showed up to any Memorial Day get-together and tried this crap, it would not end well.
Oh, I don't know.
This is not what you do to friends and family. I don't know.
Well, yes, because people that are conservative and moderate and sort of independent are normal, but in leftist communities, dark blue areas of the country, they love this kind of conversation, this kind of evangelical kind of zeal to get people, because it is a religion. Politics is a religion to the left. So I'm sure people did. And look, let's just say there were 2 barbecues in my neighborhood and we were not invited. Okay. So the people, the sort of groupthink gatherings where they'll all agree, they're not actually evangelical about this with people who disagree.
What's the point? You're literally preaching to the choir.
But they love to talk, but they love that. That's the kind of discourse liberals love.
I suppose. Meanwhile, let's check in on the mayor of Chicago and hear his Memorial Day message. Of course, this is the mayor of Chicago who is overtly just, hiring black people for jobs in the city.
Racist.
And specifically ignoring white people and bragging about it, which is, discriminatory, illegal, and, yes, as you said, racist. Here's his Memorial Day message this weekend.
Hello, I am Mayor Brandon Johnson, and I am proud to join you in recognizing and celebrating Africa Day.
What?
The continent of Africa is made up of 1.2 billion people with diverse countries full of rich traditions, cultures, and heritage. The African diaspora can be found in cities and countries around the globe. And right here in Chicago, our proud African communities have made indelible contributions to the growth and fabric of our amazing city. So this Africa Day, let us take a moment to celebrate the achievements of the people of Africa, the progress made by African nations, and the traditions and culture.
There you go. That's your message from the mayor of Chicago.
It reminds me of
Day.
It reminds me when the Biden White House, I'm sure Biden had no idea, but the Biden White House made Trans Visibility Day on Easter.
On Easter Sunday, yeah.
Just try to...
Well, even more confluence of major events this weekend also marked the 5-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd, and Governor Tim Walz put out a special message about that. Wait, wasn't he a combat war veteran? Why isn't he more interested in Memorial?
He put out the statement after Gwen opened all the windows.
to smell the city burning. Yes, exactly. So there's your so like I said, we criticize those on the left who distort the importance of Memorial Day and push their own political agenda. And that's even more reason why, again, what Trump did at his speech is nothing compared to this.
I know.
But I personally prefer Memorial Day to be pristine and focus solely on one thing. That's all. It's just me. You don't have to agree with me.
It's reasonable. I get it.
I appreciate it. You disagree.
No, I don't. No, I don't. Fine. You open it up. I'm going to say one more thing. I don't disagree. I think making one comment on Memorial Day as opposed to ignoring Memorial Day,
it's
saying
celebrating
Happy
Africa Day
and ignoring Memorial Day and, making it all about the felon George Floyd, that's a little different.
Point taken. Coming up, the case against the assassin. Cully Stimson discusses the death penalty for the terrorist who killed those 2 Israeli embassy staff members. Plus, former U.S. Attorney and now DOJ bulldog Ed Martin